So what you're looking at right here is the brand new Skagen Falster Gen 6. This is the newest WearOS smartwatch with the latest Snapdragon 4100 chip. Now, even though it's called the Gen 6, it's technically the sequel to the much-loved Skagen Falster 3 from 2020. Some of you might remember seeing that reviewed on this channel. So you might be wondering now, what happened to the 4th generation and the 5th generation, right? Well, I'll explain that in this video because honestly, the answer to that is part of two really important things you need to know about this device. Now, we'll talk about those two really important things throughout this video, but I want to start off with the physical design because that's going to be one of the main reasons you're going to be buying this watch. I mean, the design, as you can see, is just really different from so many other smartwatches. So being that this was made by Skagen, it has that sleek, minimalist Danish style that we see in a lot of their devices. It's really pretty simple, and I like that. Some people might not like that, and it's going to be a little bit divisive, but overall, I think that personally, I'm a big fan of that. We've got a 1.28-inch touchscreen on the front. There is a black bezel that is visible. They didn't do a lot to hide that, but it's not especially large. It's pretty standard for a lot of watches of this size. We also have a very sleek, in my opinion, metal mesh bracelet, and there are several different colors. This one's just really stainless steel. I think it looks very different from, again, almost any other smartwatch out there. The mesh bracelet is really easy to adjust, and it has a really nice Skagen branded clasp on there. So I think it again, looks very clean, not the best for working out, but the beauty of this watch, as with a lot of smartwatches, is that it's very easy to replace the watch strap. So you can take that off, it's just a very standard clip right there, and you can put a silicone one on there, a leather one. So by buying kind of a more minimalist style like this, it is going to be more versatile, and you can get more watch straps and bands that will all match this and really make it look good in a fitness environment, when you're wearing it to work, when whatever you might be doing. It's very versatile. Looking at the top, of course, the lugs are kind of very simple, just a little bar going up and wrapping over. On the right side, we have 3 buttons. We'll talk about what those do in a minute, but the middle button, although you wouldn't guess it from looking at it, it actually does spin. It doesn't have grips on there, so it's very smooth, and if your hands are maybe a little sweaty from working out or something, it can be a little bit slippery and hard to use. But nonetheless, it is kind of nice that you have something that rotates on this device. Of course, the 2 buttons are customizable. Like I said, we'll get into that when we talk about the interface. We've got a microphone on the right side, and on the left side, we have our speaker. So you can answer calls on this. You can get voice assistant. It has Google Assistant baked into this, and much more that we'll talk about, again, throughout the interface tour. Under the hood with this, we're getting really the classic specs we're seeing on a lot of similar devices, including the Snapdragon 4100. We've got 5 atmospheres of water resistance. We have 8 gigabytes of storage, 1 gigabyte of RAM, really all very typical stuff. When you flip it over to the back, you'll see we have, again, a really familiar looking heart rate sensor, as well as an incredibly familiar, and you guys might recognize this, this is the charging. Now you have the little charging bands right there, the 2 little rings that are split, very similar to the Fossil Gen 6. Now, the name obviously makes a lot more sense now why this is called the Skagen Falster 6. So remember I said there were 2 important things you needed to know about this watch. One of them, the first one, is that Fossil owns Skagen. And because Fossil makes the Gen 6 a very popular WearOS smartwatch, they basically also make the Skagen Falster Gen 6, which is, obviously the name Gen 6 makes sense why they wanted to do that. They wanted them both to have the same naming scheme so that they both, on paper, people weren't confused about which one was newer than the other. They're really the same generation because they're really the same watch, with the only difference, or the only main difference, being the physical design. But being that the physical design is different, that could affect things like the microphone, the speaker, the GPS, the heart rate accuracy if it's not on your wrist perfectly. So let's get into some of the testing I did right now, starting off with the speaker and the microphone.
This is a speaker test on the Skagen Falster Gen 6. I'm just calling from another phone, and if you were on a phone call, you could expect it to sound something like this. So let me know your thoughts on the quality of this speaker. And now this is a microphone test using the Skagen Falster Gen 6. I'm just calling from my watch. So this is what it would sound like if I was talking to you on the phone. Let me know what you think of the microphone quality on the Skagen Falster Gen 6.
Now, as far as accuracy goes with this watch, unfortunately, it's not the best of the best. The GPS, as you can see when I was running around in a more urban environment, had a lot of drunk wandering. It had me cutting through buildings, and just to be clear, all of my running was directly on the sidewalk. As far as the heart rate accuracy goes, we're comparing it here to the Polar H10 heart rate strap, which is a known accurate heart rate tracking device. And you can see there's obviously a lot more detail in the Polar heart rate strap. They're giving you more of a wide range here on the Skagen Falster Gen 6, and for the most part, it did a reasonable enough job. If you're doing a steady state run, it might take a little bit longer to get up to your heart rate, but once it's there, it's probably going to remain relatively consistent throughout your run. However, when you're doing interval sprints, as I did right here in the middle of my workout, you can see it very clearly missed the first low, the first valley. It did actually hit the second valley very accurately, but it did miss that second peak. It only went up to 166 when in fact I actually reached about 196. So on those quick turnarounds, that's kind of common for optical heart rate sensors, but this one's definitely nowhere near the accuracy of the Apple Watch, the Galaxy Watch, or especially the Garmin watches. And now moving into the second big thing I want to talk about, and this is actually with our interface tour, the second big thing is that this is currently running WearOS 2, but WearOS 3, as you might have heard, is coming very soon, or very soon meaning sometime in the next maybe couple months. We don't have an exact date, but we know that Google is promising to roll out WearOS 3 to any smartwatches that have the new Snapdragon 4100 chip on there, which this is one of the few watches that actually does have that. So some things are going to be a little bit different in the future. We don't know exactly what WearOS 3 is going to look like, and currently the only watches that have WearOS 3 are from Samsung, but it's Samsung's flavor of WearOS 3, and like I said, it's going to be a little bit different. But this already does have some really big improvements over the previous Skagen Gen 3. Now, the Skagen Falster 3 was running WearOS 2, and it's always going to be running WearOS 2 because it doesn't have the newer chip. So that's one of the big benefits of this watch. Additionally, on this, we're getting some things that we didn't see at the original launch a couple of years ago. WearOS 2 did see some improvements, including offline Spotify. We've got some pretty decent sleep tracking on here, as well as a lot of other staples such as Google Pay, Google Assistant, Lift to Wake, Find My Phone, and really everything you'd really expect from WearOS. But just a quick little rundown of the interface for anybody who has not used WearOS before. When you look at it, you can see that the three buttons on the right side all do different things, and they are customizable. So the button on the top right now is going to open your activities. So you can go in here and see just a rundown of what your sleep was like, your blood oxygen, your cardio, things like that. The middle button is your back button, your home button, and when you're on the home screen or the watch face, you can actually press it again and it goes into your app drawer. And as I said, the middle button on the side spins, so you can use that to navigate up and down throughout your different apps. The button on the bottom, you can customize to whatever you'd like. Right now it is opening Google Pay, and if you tap and hold the bottom button or the top button, nothing different really happens, but tapping and holding the middle button will open Google Assistant. Of course, if you swipe down, we have our quick settings. Swiping up, you get your notifications, and then swiping over to the right side, you're getting through all your different tiles, which again, have been improved with WearOS 2 right here. We've got a nice little weather widget. We've got some other things that have been improved over time, and I'm excited to see what they actually look like when a full-blown WearOS 3 comes out. Now, although there are a lot of things I like about this device, there are some drawbacks. As the market has really grown and expanded, the first drawback is that this has a little bit of a limitation with storage and RAM. It has 8 gigabytes of storage and 1 gigabyte of RAM. When you're looking at like the Apple Watches, they usually have 32 gigabytes. The Galaxy Watches, I believe, had 16 this year. So 8 gigabytes, granted, you're really only going to be using this for offline music. And I know not everybody's going to want to have a massive music library offline on their watch, but personally, I would like that because I run a lot and I don't want to have to always change which playlist is actually downloaded on this device. But talking about running, another drawback with this is that it doesn't have the best battery life. If you're going to be running, obviously GPS eats a lot of battery, but in general, even just with regular use, you're getting about 24 hours of battery with this watch. The Fossil Gen 6 really had a good job of managing the battery a little bit better with their special battery controls, and that did translate to this, so you can maybe get 2 days out of this. But in general, this is not going to be anywhere near the Garmin watches or the Huawei watches or a lot of other watches out there that are getting, well over a week of battery. This just isn't doing that. And then the next drawback I wanted to point out is that it is a little bit of a thicker watch. The minimalist design doesn't really hide that as well as some other watches do. Now, the last drawback is really more tied into Apple as a drawback than this watch as a drawback. Apple only really works with Apple Watches, although you can connect to this, you can use it for a lot of things, but messages, like you don't have quick replies and things like that. That's kind of an Apple thing. But once this gets WearOS 3, I don't know exactly how the compatibility is going to look. So that's something to be aware of. If you have an iPhone, I don't know if this is the best watch for you. And I have a playlist below of other watches that you can check out that might be a better fit for your iPhone. But like I said, there are quite a few things I really did like about this. The first one is that it's one of the watches that is getting WearOS 3 soon. So although I like the interface now, it's likely to get even better when WearOS 3 rolls out. And with WearOS 3 coming soon, we're likely to see a big improvement in the App Store, because right now, if you're an app developer, you kind of have to choose if you're making it for Samsung watches, for Fitbit, for WearOS, or for Apple. But now that we're combining Fitbit, WearOS, and Samsung, it's really going to be hopefully a better environment for app developers. Additionally, other things I really like, it's definitely a powerful watch. I really like the great, sleek aesthetic. It's really not like any other watches I've seen out there, and being that it operates very, very similarly to the Fossil Gen 6, it's really a proven watch that's basically been on the market for a while. So to reiterate, the two big things you need to know before buying this watch. The first thing, it's basically the same as the Fossil Gen 6, but just a different design. So if you like the Gen 6 or you've seen reviews and you like what you heard about it, but you like this look better, just get this one. And the second big benefit here, the second big thing you need to know, is that this will be getting WearOS 3 eventually. We don't know when, but hopefully coming in the next couple months. So that's all I have for you in this video. If you enjoyed it, consider liking and subscribing. I'm Mike O'Brien. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.